Welcome to the second episode of Lead Different, where today we're going to contrast the practices of the comparison companies, and some of these will sound really familiar to you, maybe things you're doing today, with those practices that made the good to great companies, reach their full potential. In the first episode, we learned that the comparison companies placed a great deal of time and effort in managing change and creating alignment, but they didn't transform. And on the flip side, the good to great companies didn't spend any overt time or effort on managing change, but they did. As we get into the practices, we'll begin to understand how did this work, because it's really counterintuitive. What they found in the comparison companies that was absent in the good to great companies, now this is a list that may look really familiar to you, was a search for a larger than life charismatic leader, the right executive compensation, great strategy per se, often a grand mission vision, mergers and acquisitions, technology and technology-driven change, big bets here, major initiatives with grand kickoffs and motivating people and creating alignment like we talked about. These last two are something that I see at virtually every company with largely disappointing results. And now let's look at the practices that were found in all of the good to great companies, but absent in the comparison companies. And we begin with the presence of a level 5 leader during the build-up period and the transition. And Collins actually set the researchers off and said, hey, don't tell me about some leader. But the evidence was so overwhelming. The researchers came back to Jim and said, there's a leader involved, but it's not who you think it is. It's this paradoxical mix of personal humility and professional will or fierce resolve to do whatever it takes to create an enduring great company. Those level 5 leaders started differently too. They put who questions before what questions. They didn't start with mission vision. They began with getting the right people on the bus, the wrong ones off, and the right people in the right seats. And their definition of who the right people are is very important for us to get our head around, but more of that later. They begin with the right people on the bus to confront the brutal facts without ever losing faith. And this is really vital for most companies to be able to address those things that are maybe even undiscussable today before we get going. The hedgehog concept is something that's the intersection of what you're passionate about, what you can be the best at, and what creates value. And this creates a simplicity that allows you to put in place real discipline and a culture of discipline and actually aim technology where it makes the most sense and creates massive amounts of leverage. The first three pieces, the level 5 leader, the first two, and then confronting brutal facts, this is the basis for the build-up period and how we create what we call a flywheel of improvement. This idea of build-up to breakthrough is so counter to what most companies do in their improvement efforts. The good to great companies had no name for their transformations, no launch event, no tagline, nothing that felt like a program or an initiative. In fact, in the rearview mirror, they couldn't pinpoint a singular defining moment where things really turned. Becoming great's a cumulative process. Too often today, we're looking for the singular tool or the right initiative or the one felt swoop where we can really begin to make things different. Collins and his researchers put this into a framework called the flywheel, where these first three pieces create the buildup for that long sustained run of improvement. Now I'll tell you, we do this in Lead Different, but we don't do them one at a time. We tackle this level 5 leadership concept, first two, and confronting brutal facts. We do those simultaneously right from the start. And I'm going to tell you, it doesn't take 15 years to start feeling the flywheel turning. In fact, there's a cultural flywheel that you feel first before the business one turns, but it doesn't take 15 years. We can do it a lot faster. If you want to learn more, you can reach out and contact me or stay tuned for that next episode. Until then, play hard, have fun, and make a difference.